Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for the West Ada School District. It is Monday, June 8th, 2026 at 6 p.m. Will everyone please join me while Mr. Marcus Myers leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good job, Marcus.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. Madam Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda?
Madam Chair, there are none.
I'll turn the time over to Dr. Bubb for his report and spotlights.
Madam Chair, trustees, obviously we just got done with graduations, just a great week. I want to say thank you to our board, to our executive team who are present at all those graduations. It is a lot. We go through, including Idaho State, we go through 10 graduations in just over a week, but a great opportunity to celebrate kids that are walking across the stage with opportunities in both college and career pathways. So incredibly exciting. I'd also like to recognize Eagle High School. Eagle High School was named the IHSAA 6A School of Excellence Award, reflecting the school's commitment to academic achievement, student leadership, and excellence in extracurricular programs. So congratulations to Eagle High School. Last, but for my last part, I'd like to take a minute to recognize Marcus Myers, who just ran us through the Pledge of Allegiance very well. As we recognize Marcus at his final board meeting with West Ada School District, we want to express our sincere gratitude for his years of dedicated service to our students, staff, families, and community. Throughout his career in West Ada School District, Marcus has served with distinction in a variety of roles, including teacher, principal, and most recently, chief academic officer. In each position, he has demonstrated unwavering commitment to student success and a deep belief in the power of public education. His leadership has helped shape important initiatives, strengthen systems of support for students, and advance the district's mission of preparing today's students for tomorrow's challenges. While Marcus has contributed greatly through his professional expertise and leadership, he will perhaps be remembered most for his genuine care for people. Whether working with students, supporting staff, collaborating with parents, or partnering with community members, Marcus consistently led with compassion, integrity, and authenticity. He has built meaningful relationships throughout our organization and has positively impacted countless lives along the way. As Marcus begins his next chapter of leadership journey as superintendent in CUNA School District, we congratulate him on a well-deserved opportunity. While we will miss his leadership and friendship, we are proud of all that he has accomplished in West Ada, and we know where he lives, right down the street from us, so you'll always have a home here. On behalf of the Board of Trustees and the entire West Ada community, thank you, Marcus, for your service, your leadership, and your commitment to students. We wish you continued success and fulfillment in your new role, and know that CUNA Schools will be fortunate to have you as their superintendent. Congratulations.
Here, here.
Now I'd love to welcome Michelle Edmonds up to the podium for her presentation.
Chair Frazier, Vice Chair Ozuna, Trustee Benetti, Trustee Brown, and Trustee McCullough. On behalf of the West Ada Executive Team, it is my honor to express our sincere gratitude to each one of you. June is School Board Appreciation Month in Idaho, and one thing that this team values most about West Ada is our commitment to recognizing and celebrating those who dedicate themselves to serving others. So tonight, we in turn recognize all of you. As the leaders of Idaho's largest school district, you devote countless hours to preparation, thoughtful discussions, difficult decisions, and meaningful engagement with your community. Your commitment to public education, to the students, the staff, the families, and the public that you serve is evident in every decision that you make. Our entire executive team is extremely grateful for a board that remains passionately focused on what is best for children. You advance our mission not only from the dais on Monday nights, but every day, and you do it by showing up. Whether you're handing out diplomas at 9 graduation ceremonies, recognizing outstanding employees at monthly celebrations, attending student activities and athletic events, or donning your hard hats at the 60th school built under your collective leadership, you are present, you are engaged, and you are invested in the success of this district. You show up by digging into policy and finance committees, working side by side with district leadership to navigate complex issues and make thoughtful decisions. And sometimes you show up with cookies, simply to thank the employees you care about and show them your support. Each of you brings the invaluable perspective of a West Ada parent with children who have attended or graduated from our schools. That personal connection deepens your understanding of the opportunities, the challenges, and the aspirations shared by all of our families across this district. As individual trustees, you lead with care, integrity, and respect. As a board, you remain focused on our mission and committed to ensuring that every student has the opportunity to leave West Ada college and career ready. On behalf of the West Ada executive team, thank you for your unwavering belief in preparing today's students for tomorrow's challenges. Executive team, would you please come forward? In recognition of School Board Appreciation Month, it is now our privilege to present each of you with a small token of gratitude. Thank you so much for what you do each and every day for West Ada.
I love that. Actually, right here. Thank you. Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Wow. Yeah, that. Thank you. Shame on you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Well, thank you all. That was really sweet and very unexpected. Thank you. With that, we move on to patron input. We did not have anyone sign up this evening, but just as a reminder, if that is ever something you'd like to speak to, we need you to sign up before the meeting begins. There is a 2-minute maximum amount of time, and it needs to be kept to high level, not to any individual person or employee, staff member, anything like that, to procedure, policy, that type of thing. With that, we will move forward to the budget hearing, and I am open to a motion. Trustee Benetti.
I move that we open the budget hearing for the proposed budget amendment for the 2025-26 school year and for consideration for approval of the 2026-27 school year budget.
Is there a second? Trustee McCullough?
I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We will open that hearing and hand the time over to Mr. Dave Roberts, our CFO.
Thank you, Madam Chair, trustees, Dr. Bub. I have a frog in my throat. I think I brought water. I was going to have Michelle Edmonds come do this because it'd be a lot more exciting if she does it for me. But before I do, I want to thank Jennifer Brown, who is our new budget analyst for the district, who is here and helped with a lot of this. So we're going to start with going through the amendment of the 25-26 budget. If you remember, about a month ago, we had a little presentation on I know my executive team loved the name Public School Funding Made Simple. Maybe it wasn't so simple, but I thought it was. And there's not a lot of changes just because of what happened to the legislature this year that we've already talked about. But we're first going to go over, I always do this, our agenda. So we're going to go through the amended budget highlights in the general fund, the amended budget highlights in other funds, an amended budget summary, and then our next steps on the 25-26, and then we'll get to 26-27. On the general fund, as far as revenues goes, the changes in revenues from year to year, basically it was a fund balance increase. Every year we have an audit that happens after our year end June 30th, and there's some slight differences from where we thought we were going to be to where we actually came out. Our base support funding decreased. We had a slight decrease of 1.87 units than we projected last year due to a little bit less attendance. And again, revenue, in the local revenue, there's a slight decrease with some lower investment earnings on my projection based on a lot of it. Some of it is spending that just the cash flow that we have this year. But overall, the revenue change on this deal on a $365 million general fund budget was 0.73%. So you could say it another way, we were wrong by 99, or we were right 99.27% of the time, not wrong 99% of the time. As far as the expenses go, overall expenses decreased slightly. School administration expenses went up a little bit, and that was really the biggest piece of that was the implementation of the Dean and Student Program this year. And then security went up a little bit, and that was really an updated budget to reflect our current SRO contracts that we have. Again, overall, our increase in expenditures was 0.6% different from originally amended. So we went from prior year budget of $334 million to this budget of $336 million on the amended budget. As far as other funds go, we'll get into revenues, and this has all, this next slide has all revenues, including general fund revenue. So again, the fund balance was adjusted to audit actual balances. If you see there was a decrease or an increase in general fund, a decrease in this fund, and that was really some funds, reserve funds that got transferred to general fund. Local revenue increased due to some utilization of special education reserves. We also had an increase in transportation revenue this year that wasn't expected. Part of that was due to a change in the law that happened late, and we just got that last funding from that this last month on our last payment. And then we had other minor adjustments that were consistent with our general fund adjustments. As far as our expenditures go, we did have a slight increase in projected salaries and benefits. Administration change, we already talked about that in the general fund. And then maintenance as well was already outlined in the general fund. The final change, debt service, if you guys remember, our debt service is going down. We're now gonna have a stable debt service payment for the next 7 years, I believe, at about $3.5 million a year. So that adjustment went down a little bit. And overall, with all funds, our total expenditures changed 0.05% overall. So the next item is the amended budget summary. The first column has our general fund amended budget, all other funds amended budget, and then the total funds amended budget, reflecting the changes that we just discussed. The next steps is a recommendation for you guys to approve this amended budget, and then we'll submit the documentation to, what's that word, documentation? To the State Department of Education for our amended budget. And that was quick. I will stand for any questions on the 25-26 amended budget.
That was amazing. Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Any questions or comments? Trustee Benetti?
So, from memory, we've done this every year, and every year there basically has to be an amended budget, partially because you make the best estimates that you can with average daily attendance, but that's always going to be a question mark until the numbers actually come in. And that is the primary driver for why we have to amend a budget year after year. Is that roughly accurate?
Madam Chair, Trustee Benetti, that's correct.
And is this roughly in line with how it's been in past years? From my memory, it does seem like it's roughly in line with past years, but from your own recollection, is this roughly in line from past years?
Madam Chair, Trustee Benetti, it's very much in line. There's very slight changes overall.
So one of the ways that we could help solidify and remove some of these question marks moving forward, and potentially even the need to have an amended budget, is if we went to a funding mechanism that was more consistent and more predictable, for instance, like potentially enrollment funding. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, Trustee Benetti, it's my belief that that's correct, yes.
Okay. No more questions.
Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'm open to a motion. Trustee Benetti?
I move that we accept the amended budget for the 2025-26 school year as presented by Chief Financial Officer Dave Roberts.
Is there a second? Trustee McCall?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Mr. Roberts?
Okay, let's move on to the 26-27 budget. We will go first to the agenda. We're going to first start with the general fund. Then we're going to talk about state special revenue funds, federal special revenue funds, and then we'll talk briefly about a bond levy plant facility and House 292 money, and then the publication with the state in the newspaper that's already been published. So, as Trustee Benetti just asked about, and we talked about a month ago, the majority of our funding comes from average daily attendance, which ultimately is a function of enrollment. We don't get paid on enrollment, we get paid on something less. Enrollment would be a factor of 1, and attendance is 90%, 92%, somewhere in that range, depending on the district, and it's less. So we've done a couple different ways, and last year for the first time, we tried to really, I tried to get really tight on how we do this. I'm projecting a decrease of 233 students for next year. And if you remember last year, for 25-26, we have 37,966 students. We're going to lose 3,342 seniors. And again, since prior to COVID, our kindergartners that are coming are substantially less. I'm projecting 2,207 kindergarten students. So we have a loss of 1,100 students just right there in that change. But I've done historical analysis. I think I showed you guys last year, and we gain students in the grades throughout the year. Really, we gain from first grade all the way to about ninth grade. Then high school kind of stabilizes, from kids coming from charters, kids coming from homeschool, things like that. They come back to us. I'm projecting this year that will be about 919 students. So that projection would yield 37,750. So I'm slightly off of that. The methodology we did last year, I was within 90. It was a bigger drop. We didn't quite drop as much as I projected. We dropped a little more than I projected, but we were within 90 students. So I'm feel very confident in that number and confident in the 37,733. Now, maybe we have much more kindergartners come and we get more students, but that's where we're at right now. The 37,733, when you apply that to the attendance factor, I'm projecting we're going to drop 17 units from where we are this year. And we talked about this before, as far as the legislature this year and what's happening in funding, there was no change in employee compensation. So that's zero. They did allow steps on the career ladder, however, so that we did end up netting in our total salary-based apportionment. I'm projecting that we're going to have a 1.1 million increase in that. Discretionary funding overall is going to increase 5.23%. All of that increase is due to the insurance component that increased for us 10.83%. The discretionary component stayed flat. So those are the main general fund revenue assumptions. If we look at, and this is what Trustee Ozuna asked about last time, this really gives the breakdown of where our revenue comes from. So you can see in this projection, 84.59% of our revenue is coming from state revenue. We have a little bit of benefit apportionment. We have salary-based apportionment. That's all in the state revenue. But overall, if you take all of that together, it's about a 1.69% increase year over year that I'm projecting in revenue. So a very small increase. As far as our expenditure highlights, salaries and benefits, I'm projecting to be decreased. Again, partly because of our reduction in students and reduction in the units that we have. Insurance actually is a net increase, even with that reduction, with the 10.83% increase. And then transportation expenditures are going to decrease this next year. During the year, our transportation folks found an error in how we were being billed, and we corrected that, and some of that will be experienced next year. So I know you can't see that blue very well, or I can't. That's really, instruction is 54.19 and instructional support 36.5. So we've got almost 90% in instruction and instructional support as part of our general fund expenditures. As far as our special revenues funds go, this is a list of the special revenue funds that we talked about before. This is really where the pieces of this, these are all relatively small numbers compared to the state funding overall. Projecting college and career advisors to be at 1 million, technology funding to be about 3.65, literacy funding to be 7.9. Remember that literacy, that's how we pay for our full-day kindergarten. So even though it shows up here, it's really part of our general obligations, and we use that for full-day kindergarten. Math and science, which is based on our high schools, at 753,000, professional development at 1.1, remediation at 334, and safe and drug-free schools at 466. Is my projections for state funding on special revenue funds. This then is a nice pretty graph of the breakdown of state funding of those amounts we just talked about. The biggest chunk you can see, more than half of that is literacy funding of almost $8 million. Now we get into federal funding. We have numbers, and typically we haven't necessarily had numbers as early as this year. There's going to be, there was a slight drop last year in most of our numbers, or that was relatively flat. I think there's going to be a slight drop. What we've been notified right now, there's a slight drop. Part of the reason also of amending budget is sometimes we get additional allocations. They give us an initial allocation, and sometimes that changes, and it could be up or down. So as far as Title I goes, I think our funding is going to be $5,458,000. That's about a $161,000 drop. Title II is going to be $814,000. Title III, $214,000, and then Title IV, $511,000 on there. So those are all fairly flat numbers, relatively speaking, to the entire budget. And then as far as special ed funding, again, I think it's going to be a slight drop, but it's very, very slight, from 7.1 million to 7,044,000 in IDEA Part B, and then our preschool is a slight increase from 211,000 to 221,000 for our middle school funding. And then our other funds. I talked a little bit about this. My projections for this next year, remember, in the expenditure side, let's start with that. Our principal and interest payments are $3.5 million for the next 7 years, and then our last payment is like $600,000. We do have some money in the fund balance there, so I'm anticipating right now that we would levy $1.5 million. And remember, the taxpayers will not pay that levy because House Bill 292 will offset that to zero, but that's how it will show up on the L2 originally. We'll have some interest income in there, and we have a fund balance that will give us enough to service the debt for next year, and end up with about $158,000 fund balance. I don't necessarily want to get that to zero. I need a little room in there till we have that debt completely paid off, but that's how that looks. This last year, if you remember, we actually levied zero because we had fund balance to cover our payments for this year. Plant facilities levy, this 2027 will be the last year that we assess the plant facility levy, unless the board decides to renew that and go to the voters. I have a breakdown of the 16 million approximately there that we would spend. This is all part of what I'll talk about next, is really our 10-year plan that we're using plant facilities money and modernization money, House Bill 521 money, to spend for some of that maintenance and improvements. And then just to briefly to talk about House Bill 521. This was really passed 3 years ago. We received about $154 million. Dr. Reinhardt has presented our 10-year plan with this. We're following through on that plan, and we'll have further reporting to you later on how that is going. This budget, I've including about $20.75 million of these funds to be spent, along with our plant facilities funds. The only projects funded overall so far is, Independence Elementary and deferred maintenance that we've identified as part of our long-term plan. Then we have our school district facilities fund. So this is, I've referred to it in the past as House Bill 292. This is the bill that got passed again 3 years ago, where the legislature is giving money to the districts that has to be used to offset property tax levies. There's a waterfall effect of that. You have to first offset your bond levy, then you have to offset your supplemental levy, then you have to offset your plant levy, and then anything remaining there goes into a school facilities fund and can only be used for school facilities. And if you remember from our last time, we were helped with the law changes last year to allow us to use that excess money also to do certificates of participation, which you guys approved at the last board meeting for Lake Hazel and for the CTE improvements on Locust Grove. Based on the projections that I have done in consultation with Eric Herringer and some others, based where the state is through, what are we on, through April 30th, and where state sales tax revenue is, and things like that, I think that the state is gonna get about $242 million. I could be wrong, that's my projection. Sales tax is up quite a bit year over year so far. This would be a 2.87% increase over last year. Based on that amount, we would receive approximately $34 million, which is fairly close to what I projected before. If you remember, when I projected a plan with the property tax levies, I was using a 2% increase on that number every year. And that number is pretty close to that. If you remember, these funds have to come to us by August 31st each year. The State Department is supposed to know by August 1st. And again, we talked about this before, this has to be used to offset our levies first, and then any remainders can be used for school facilities on that. And again, this year, we will not have a supplemental levy. 2026 is our last year of our supplemental levy, and so we would only be offsetting our bond levy and our plant levy. Okay, school nutrition. So school nutrition, I know we lovingly say and truthfully say that we're the largest restaurant service in the state of Idaho. Last year served 2.74 million meals to West Ada students, approximately about 65,000 breakfasts every month, 257 lunches every month. It's a self-supporting program. It's a separate fund by itself. Their revenue in 25-26 was 10.7 million between all their different revenue sources. We anticipate there to be a small increase in that next year, but not tremendously. I'm working with school nutrition staff right now to talk about, and Dr. Reinhardt to talk about what lunch rates would be, and if they increase above 5%, we'll be coming back to you and talk about if you want to do that or not. And then finally, in the fine print, this is a publication that went to our newspapers that summarizes all of what I just talked about in detail on how we have to present it to the state and to the public. That has been published timely, in time for this meeting and in time for you guys to approve. And then the next steps are your consideration and approval of the 26-27 budget, and then we would submit that to the State Department. And with that, I will stand for any questions you may have.
Any comments or questions? Trustee Benetti will start with the first two.
I have questions, and then I have a point of privilege just for presentation. Okay, so let's start with the questions first. So you mentioned earlier in the presentation that there was going to be a reduction of salaries and benefits. I want to clarify, that's in the macro overall bottom line number, not in individual salaries and individual benefits.
Madam Chair, Trustee Benetti, that is correct. We actually, in our certified salary schedule and what we negotiated, what the team negotiated, we actually have an increase overall based on our projections of attrition and movement and things like that, because again, they did not give any CPI increase, if you will, as far as wages, but they did move on the salary schedule. So when everybody moves on the career ladder, we end up receiving additional funding. And then the challenge is always, what is that attrition? So overall, our teachers will get increases, and our overall certified salaries will be funded more than were funded last year.
Right, so just to clarify for both this time and last time, so we're going to have the overall net number that is spent in aggregate on salaries and benefits will go down. That's a result of attrition. There's no RIFs being planned or anticipated reductions in force, and that the individual salaries in aggregate are going up on a per teacher basis. Is that correct?
Chair, Trustee Benetti, that is correct.
So you also mentioned that your team went through and found some savings through transportation. I'm intrigued. What was the, I mean, was it $10? I mean, what was the scope of that savings?
Madam Chair, Trustee Benetti, the net adjustment ended up being about $2 million.
I'm sorry, you said 2 million?
2 M with a million, yes. So again, we have a fantastic transportation team. This never would have been done if they didn't go over the invoices that we have and receive those. We worked with our vendor on that for a couple months to try to figure out methodology on how to find the corrections. It has to do, and I'm not going to say it correctly, but it has to do with what routes are and what Dr. Reinhardt might have told me with the language. I wish I had Miranda here. But there's different types of, there's full routes that we run, and then sometimes we're short. We have to run a different route, and it's how all of that was billed.
You have me at 2
Wait till
million.
it shows- Okay.
You have me at 2 million.
Thank you.
That's
Okay.
impressive. Thank you. One more. So the other last, and it is the last question that I have. So 89% roughly of our total amount is in salaries for basically all of our staff. So what if that were something that we wanted to independently increase ourselves? The only mechanism that I think that we have to be able to do that is a supplemental levy. And then that would have to be renewed every 2 years. Otherwise, everything that you've done in the interim would be wiped out. Are there any other facilities available to us, or are we basically, that's just where we're at?
Madam Chair, Trustee Benetti, so there's 2 ways to generate additional revenue for the district. 1, get more students. 2, have them attend at higher rates. I mean, that's really the 2 ultimates. And we, as you know, we've spent a lot of time on making sure our attendance is accurate. That is a very complicated piece of the public school funding formula, is just attendance and how that works. Those are really the 2 ways. The others, and I did run some quick numbers, because I think part of the deal, when somebody sees a $657 million budget, or they see a $360 million budget, those are hard numbers to comprehend. But I did do, if we just gave everybody in the district $1 an hour raise, that's a $6 million number on that. So it's not small money on that. It's different between it's admin or certified or classified, but it's a big number. And again, we rely on the state for our funding. I testified this last week at the legislature on the public funding formula, and I like salary-based apportionment for a lot of reasons, because it does give every district really their own calculation on how we get funded for salaries. But we're operate very, very lean, and yeah, we can't just do it on our own unless we spend fund balance.
Dr. Bum?
Madam Chair, Trustees, just to clarify, because I get this question often about supplemental levies. It would have to be, due to House Bill 292 and our low debt, it would actually have to be in excess of our debt. So it would have to be in excess of $31 million. If we're getting $34 million, $3 million is going to debt. It would have to be in excess of that in order to actually impact salaries, meaning you'd have to run a supplemental levy for $40 million for us to get $6 million, to be able to actually see $6 million out of that. It's important for people to understand as we talk about taxes. The only way for us to actually see money would have to be in excess of what we actually receive from House Bill 292 money. Am I saying that correct?
Madam Chair, Dr. Bubb, that's exactly correct. Because we're getting $34 million with House Bill 92, so anything we go to the taxpayers has to be in excess of that for us to net $1.
So I have a follow-up question on that. So when you talk about $6 million, does that include Percy and health insurance and all the other pieces that go into that?
Madam Chair, that does not. That was strictly a salary number, so you would add another 22% on top of that.
Thank you. Other questions? David, I understand you have a,
I just have a follow-up
follow-up.
on that, on Superintendent Bubb's, because it's, I understand it, so actually, thank you for that perspective, but it's not only that, right? We'd have to do that, we'd have to do it every 2 years, and then if it fails for whatever reason, what do you do? You have to just, I guess, I don't even know what you would do. There's really nothing to do. So you're sort of having a sort of Damocles holding over your head once you go down that route. And so well, anyway, you've testified in favor of enrollment funding. I'm in support of that. And I'll just leave it at that. So any other questions? And then
No, I agree. It's a good conversation, and it's something as a board we discuss often, is how we can affect the most valuable pieces, I think, and on all levels within West Ada, and definitely our staff is a huge one. And it's a tough discussion. It's hard to figure out how to do that with the limited funds that we have. And I think you showed that very well. I forget which slide it was, but showing that 85% plus of our budget is going already to staff salaries, retirement, all that good stuff. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I know we've talked about it in Finance Committee often, so I appreciate you going through this. Other comments, questions? Vice Chair Zuna?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Reppers, thank you to you and your team, because I know that it's a huge process to get the budget ready. This is my favorite question every year at this time. Do we have any major additions or deletions to any of our programs that are in place that impact the budget this year?
Madam Chair, Trustee Ozuna, we do not. Again, the natural attrition of less students means less classes necessary at all different levels. So there will be some natural attrition of teaching and support staff. But we do that every year, whether we increase or decrease, but nothing major in any kind of programs.
Thank you.
Other questions? Trustee McCullough?
I just have a comment. I just want to thank you for all the hard work you and your staff put into managing our budget. I know that it's not easy and it's running on the lean side, and I know that it's very difficult. And I especially just want to thank our staff and our teachers who are putting those dollars into action every single day. And because of it, our students are succeeding. And because of the hard work that we collectively do, I can see West Ada succeeding and going just up in an upward trajectory. And I just want to thank you for all your hard work and keeping us safe, fiscally responsible. Yeah.
Other comments or questions? Trustee Benetti, I know you're chomping at the bit down there.
my point, Bruce, I like to do this every year because I know that we've had, our friends and neighbors in the Boise School District who commented to us a while back. And so I just wanted to make sure that we take advantage of the opportunity to show this as a demonstration. Because I took a little different take this year. I sort of put my input into cloud, AI, and I took the sort of budget and audits going back 5 years for that. And, I sort of looked at the comparison because what we're doing actually is pretty remarkable. If you look at the median home price, and if here are two tax assessments that come from the county assessor, and they both represent the median home price with exemptions here in the Treasure Valley. One of them, of course, is in the Boise School District. One of them is in our school district. And so I just wanted to sort of go through that. So if you look at a 2024 taxes, I always love my props because visuals are so important. So if we look at the 2024 taxes, this is the money that you spend. That's 200, that's 300, that's 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, stand up here, 900, 1,000, and 76. And that was the 2024 taxes. And I remember doing this last year, and we were quite excited because if you do our taxes for the same effective size, it's $134, which is right there, and that's the comparison. Now, of course, that was last year, so now we have to sort of update it for this year. And if you look at it updated for this year, the taxes in the Boise School District have gone up 24%. So we'll take that off the top. We'll add another 100 here, another 200 here, and now we have to put an additional $76. Whereas in the West Ada School District, they have gone down 95%. So I'm going to take all this and put it back in my pocket as a taxpayer in West Ada, and I'm going to put our new tax bill, which is $5.76 for 5. I want to be accurate here, so and a penny. And that is the relative difference in the tax rates between our two districts. Now, for a median household. Now, I think that what it's also important is to realize that we're not simply doing this just for the basis of spending less money. It's easy to spend less money and have worse results. But then let's go ahead and take a look at the results. So again, I went into cloud and I say, okay, well, let's compare the ISAT results for the past 10 years and look at what the performance difference is between the two. So we will start with ELA. Those are our reading scores. And those are on our side. ELA is up 15 points on the margin. Math scores is also on our side. That's 11 points on the margin. Science for the most recent year is 13 points. That's also here. So if you look at it, the gap has increased from 7 points to 15 points over that past 10-year period. So the performance is excellent, and it's getting even better. So then I said, well, let's make sure that we look at it in terms of cross-tabulation. So what about cross-tabulation? Okay, let's say, what about third grade ELA and math performance? Well, that's 17 points. Now let's look at fourth grade. That's also in our favor. Fifth grade, sixth grade, both math and ELA, seventh, eighth, and of course, high school. Also in our favor. That's contributing. And so then I thought, well, you know, that's probably not the entire story. We should look at some of the other crosstabs and look at some of the demographics. So again, I put it into Claude, and everyone could just put these prompts in yourself. It's not just simply me, but I said, okay, what happens if we look at English learners? Well, the difference in English learners is 6.6 points for us, 4.2 points. So that's in our favor. If we look at economically disadvantaged, the gap is 13 points versus 9. That's again in our favor. I'm running out of props here. If we look at African American, that's 17 points versus 12. If we look at demographic, Hispanic and Latino, 22-point gap between the West Ada School District and the Boise School District. Asian Pacific Islander, 9.5%. And I think I'm just going to stop there because I think I proved my point. It's not simply about how we're doing money. It's how we're using it, how we're taking advantage of it. And this performance, I think, is rightfully said to be put on the exec team. All of this performance, and this is the performance that matters, is our teachers. And they're the ones who are doing this every single day for every group, for every demographic, at every grade level, all the time, always. And so I just want to say thank you mostly to our teachers who are making this performance happen. I'm glad that we were able to move them up the career ladder with the percentage. I noticed in Idaho Ed News that wasn't necessarily something that was happening in every district. I'm glad it's happening at ours. I'm glad that we're able to make career and college readiness available for our kids. I'm glad we're able to do this working with the legislature to be able to fund Independence Elementary and our CTE Center and our renovations at Lake Hazel. And I'm particularly glad that we can do that lowering our taxes by 95%. So I don't know how you do it, and I certainly don't know how you guys do it, but I really, really appreciate the job that you're doing because our kids are benefiting from it. So I will get off my soapbox now, but I want to thank everybody who has helped make this possible, and I'll go put this money in the bank because they didn't have enough ones for me when I went to go take them out. They had to do a special run.
Trustee Benetti, several of us are happy to help you carry that out.
No, it's okay, I got it. I appreciate it.
All right, are there any other comments or questions regarding the 26-27 budget? And for some reason, I'm trying to envision you like making these pencils and painting them and this whole, yeah, it's a whole craft weekend at the Benettis.
I had good teachers.
All right. Seeing no more comments, I am open to a motion. Trustee Benetti.
I move that we approve the proposed school budget for the 2026-27 school year.
Is there a second? Trustee McCullough.
I'll second.
Any further conversation? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. I am open to a motion to close the budget hearing. Trustee Benet.
I move that we close the budget hearing.
Is there a second? Trustee McCullough.
I'll second.
Any deep conversation about that? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. I am now open to a motion on consent agenda. Trustee Benetti.
I move that we accept the consent agenda unanimously.
Is there a second? Trustee McCullough.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We will now move to old business, discussion and action, and that will be policy 515.1, which will be presented by Dr. Derek Bubb.
Madam Chair, trustees, just a reminder on policy, and my eyes are getting really bad, I apologize, 515-10, I believe it is. We have not made any changes, met with the Policy Review Committee again on a follow-up from our conversations last week. I will stand for any questions, though.
Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I'm open to a motion. Trustee Benetti.
I move that we approve policy 515-10, attendance, as presented by Superintendent Dr. Derek Bubb.
Is there a second? Trustee McCullough.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. That takes us to new business. We have a guest in our audience this evening that will be presenting from ISBA. That would be Misty Swanson, the Executive Director. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, trustees, and Superintendent Bubb. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you tonight and look forward to sharing some information and hopefully answering any questions that you may have. Before I begin, I too wanted to say Happy School Board Appreciation Month. Every state celebrates it a different month, but we do this in June, and so we really appreciated Ms. Edmonds starting the meeting out with that because that's really important to us. We recognize you spend hours and hours every single month dedicated to your students, staff, parents, and community members, and so we really appreciate that. I am the Executive Director of the Idaho School Boards Association. This is my 21st year with ISBA. I am a West Ada School District constituent, so I live in Zone 2, and I have lived in West Ada for over 22 years, so I'm one of your constituents and to appreciate all of the great work that you all do. I have here with me today Jason Knopp. He is a board member in the Melba School District, but today is day one of working for ISBA. So he has an extra long day starting at like 7 o'clock this morning going to this evening. So, but we're excited to have him join us. He brings many, many years of experience as both a school board member, but also with ISBA, previously serving as our president of the association. But we hired him as the director of strategic advocacy. He is taking over for our prior government affairs director. So let's see if this works. There we go. So a little bit about ISBA. We were founded 84 years ago, and the purpose of being founded still rings true today, which is to represent statewide school board members, to provide you with a myriad of services and benefits, and really to be your advocate at the State House. We are located in downtown Boise, and that's very strategic. We are about a block and a half from the State House. So during the legislative session, we are there multiple times a day. I get lots of steps on my watch as I'm walking back and forth between the State House, and then also right behind the State House is the State Department of Education, the State Board of Education, the Governor's Office. We have meetings with them frequently, both during the session and then also all of the months outside of the session. ISBA is governed by a 22-member board. So you think that most school boards or most superintendents have a 5-member board. I have a 22-member board. They are fantastic. They are spread out throughout the entire state. We have 9 regions. You will see that there's only 8 lit up there. That's because the 9th region is a charter school region. So we are the only school board association in the nation that welcomes charter schools as full members of our association. But those 9 regions each have 2 people, both a large district and a small district individual or board member who serves on our executive board plus 4 officers. And we do the large and small district for very intentionally so that we don't have our whole board loaded up with a lot of small districts or a lot of large. That probably wouldn't happen in this case because there's only so many large districts in our state. But we do that intentionally so that the entire state is represented depending on your size of districts in each region. Our board members serve on various committees, as do our staff, multiple ISBA committees, the Professional Standards Commission, the Idaho High School Activities Association, and then we're always hearing from the State Department, State Board, the Governor's Office about lots of other committees to serve on. I serve on the Teacher of of the Year committee right now, so I am going through lots of applications to try and help select the next Teacher of the Year. We have a small but mighty team of 10 people. And I'm happy to share with you, half of us reside in this district. So I think that's pretty cool. No other district in the state can say that half of our staff live in their district. Many of us either have had or do currently have children in the district. We have some that graduated from West Ada, and we have many that have parents and family members in the district as well. So I say all of that to say we're proud of the work you do. We're proud to reside in this community and in this district, and to see all the great things that happen. I follow all of your social media and saw all the graduation pictures and thought they have got to be exhausted. That was a lot of graduations. A little bit about what we do. I recognize, before I launch into this slide, I recognize that you are a big district. You have a team with subject matter experts at everywhere you turn, and that is amazing. But we want to be here to be a resource to you, to support you, along with your leadership team. So this goes beyond the board. It goes along to your leadership team and anyone else who needs support or assistance. That's what we want to help with. But we really provide guidance on governance, policy, negotiations, emerging issues, and we believe that sometimes there are occasions where a board should contact maybe a third party or a neutral group to say, like, hey, what are you seeing around the state? Or do you have any resources or things like that? And that's what we really try to provide to board members across the state. I think what most of our members use us for is to call us with questions. They constantly have questions. They need resources. They're not sure who to ask. My phone is on 24 hours a day, and I think that my husband and daughter can tell you almost any answer to any question because they overhear me step in the other room and answering the questions. Jason and many of other leadership team, they also have personal cell phones that they give out, and that's available for all of the school board members and district leadership to reach out to. Let's see, I guess it's in a different order. Hold on. Okay, sorry, I got too far. So one of the services that we provide that is listed on there is board development workshops. So we create a variety of workshop topics. We can create custom workshops. Anything that your district is looking for, we either already have or we can create to try to help build some board development or professional development. The workshops vary in price. It really depends on the topic and the time that you're looking for. But if you're not using the $6,600 that's allocated by the state every year, you should be. Those topics can be used for things like governance, ethics, strategic planning, finance, and superintendent evaluation. If you're not familiar with what that is, the state has budgeted for every school district and charter school to receive $6,600 in reimbursable funds for certain things. So those topics I just mentioned to you, if you receive a training from a qualified trainer like ISBA, then you get fully reimbursed for it. So it's zero net for you to be able to do that training. And we'll talk about events here in just a second where you can also use that for events. We also provide publications and essential tools, things like the Slate magazine, Capital Notes, the Hill and Federal Court Report, the Clerk's Manual, the election timeline. All of those are included in ISBA membership. We also provide a superintendent search. So I actually assisted the district when we hired Dr. Bubb. It was such a delight to be able to do that. I was in the district office every Friday morning. It was the previous chair, Mr. Roberts. We had every Friday morning we would meet and talk about the superintendent search in every single detail, and it took us months to get through that. But I enjoyed all of those meetings and being here with you all, or with those that were in the room at that point. We also help with labor relations, so we create a salary schedule, a master agreement database, a job center, model job description manual. All of that is included in membership as well. So when you pay your membership dues, all of these things I'm mentioning are included in that. We also host the ISBA insurance program, so that's for your district's property and liability insurance. That's not part of your membership fees, the cost for the insurance program. But that is something that we launched in 1984 with Morton & Company, and that is a massive pool of insurance to help bring all of the costs down so that perhaps when you go look at other liability and property insurance, you're probably going to get a lot higher rates than what Morton & Company can provide there. And that's something that we are happy to offer as well. We also provide policy services to school districts across the state. We are a member of the American Association of State Policy Services. The acronym is ASPS. So there's an organization like ours in every state. So all of our policy experts get together and they share what is happening in all the states. How did you write this policy? How did you navigate this federal change? Everything that they work on, they share, and then that way we have a compiled list throughout the nation of different policies. And I'm happy to talk more about how we get to our policy and how we write those policies in a little bit if you'd like. And then one other thing I wanted to mention is our board clerk services. We're the only organization in the state that provides services for board clerks. And that's really important to us because the clerks came to us and said, we don't have a professional organization. We have nobody giving us professional development. Your board clerk has participated faithfully for years with us. She attends our workshops, she attends our webinars, she attends our retreat. She goes to all of the workshops at the convention. She started also presenting workshops. She's become a subject matter expert to where she's sharing her expertise with board clerks across the state. And I just ran into her a month ago at the clerk retreat. So that was a really great opportunity. That is all free with membership as well to give her that professional development. I'll launch into ISBA events. I'm not going to go through all of these because I don't want to take too much of your time, but we offer lots of different events that are on the screen. All of those except 3 are part of ISBA membership. So the annual convention is a fee, but a good portion of that can be reimbursed through the 6,600. Day on the Hill is a small fee as well. A portion of that can be reimbursed. And then Leadership Institute has a small fee, and the full fee of that can also be reimbursed. So you can see that you can attend almost all of these for almost free to be able to attend all of those towards your professional and board development. One thing that I know is important to some of you, because some of you may have participated in this, is COSBA. So back in 2021, Jason Knopp was the ISBA president back then. There was a lot of things happening with the National School Boards Association. I won't launch into that too much, but if you Google it, you'll probably figure out what I'm talking about. And ISBA chose to leave that national organization for various reasons. We wanted a national organization that represented more similar to Idaho values and what we felt like our members were really looking for and wanting. And really, I'm talking politics aligned, lots of alignment of lots of different things. And that's where we were on the groundwork of forming the Consortium of State School Board Associations. So 27 school board associations across the state are part of COSBA. They hold an annual conference that has a gigantic list of workshops that I know is really important to people from West Ada, because you can't go anywhere else in Idaho to talk to another school district of a similar size, but you can go to COSBA and talk to other districts of similar and way larger districts. So that's a great opportunity among ISBA membership. It was important when we left the previous national organization. The executive board of ISBA really wanted us to have a seat at the table. We didn't feel like we'd ever had a seat at the table of the previous national organization. And so COSBA is one state, one vote. So our little Idaho has just as many votes as any other large state that is a member of COSBA. I've previously served on the COSBA Board of Directors and lots of committees. And then coming up soon, our president will be serving on the COSBA Board of Directors for 3 years. After that, Idaho will have the seat as the chair-elect and then ultimately the chair of the national organization. That means we'll be the president of the national organization in 6-7 years down the road. So that was something that was really important to us to make sure Idaho is represented. I want to just briefly mention about advocacy and resolutions. ISBA members vote during the November business sessions from member-driven resolutions. So our staff do not bring resolutions forward. The the government, the advocacy platform is strictly based by our members. So members, just like districts just like yours, will bring resolutions forward. The membership votes on it in November. And then from there, that gives us our marching orders for Jason, myself, and then Katie Russell in our office, who are at the Capitol every day. During the legislative session, when things come up, because there's a million bills, not a million, but there's hundreds of bills that come up during the legislative session, our Government Affairs Committee are the ones that tell us what to go do. So when we're over there, it's not because Misty likes or dislikes a bill, it's because a team and a committee of school board members makes those decisions. I'm an ad hoc member. I have no voting power. Jason and I will present the facts and the information, and then that board committee will go tell us what to do at the Capitol. Just in 2026 legislative session, we provided testimony and policy guidance on over 60 pieces of legislation and hundreds of hours behind the scenes meeting with legislators, providing them with information, providing them with examples, trying to swing votes on things. So that was something that is, I think, key for you to know. We always have between 1 and 3 staff members in the building throughout the entire legislative session. So we are walking over there every day about 7 a.m. and there's one of us or all 3 of us in the building covering all of the different committees that touch education. We also launched the legislative representative program, and so that's it's kind of a grassroots effort to be able to come to ISBA, learn about all of the things really quickly, and then we help you deploy it within your with your legislators as well. I'm not going to get into all of these, and in fact, I was just going to show it on the screen. There was a question that came up about what happens to ISBA's resolutions, and do you guys really get things across the finish line and get them into law? So these are some of the bills to give you examples of what was an ISBA resolution and then when did it get passed and what the Senate or House bill was. So this gives you an idea of the resolution number, the year it was passed, the topic, and the bill number. I think I just have 2 screens of those. I don't want to elongate tonight more than you probably want it to be, but I did want to share all of this with you. This is just based on ISBA resolutions of just grabbing a few of them. The bills that we work on throughout all of the legislative session are way, way more than this. So fast forward to my notes here. All right, I think that was all that I had on that. So in conclusion, I just wanted to say ISBA, something that I believe to my core, something that ISBA members, our executive board believes is in local governance, so local control, which means decisions as much as possible should be able to be made in this boardroom for your community, your students. And I would say this to every other school district in the state. I'm from a very small district, Bruno Grandview, for those of you who are from there, or not from there, that are familiar with there. It's tiny, that's where I grew up. I think that board should be able to make the decisions that are best for their community and their parents and all of them. That's going to be different for you all. And I would say that about every school district across the state, that you all should be able to have the opportunity to make those decisions. So when we're at the Capitol, when we're talking, we're always preaching local control. So when it comes in on things that might impede on that, that's when we speak up and say, no, we want you all to be able to make the decision in consultation with your parents, your staff, and any others that you should be. Another thing is really strengthen numbers. So as we go to the Capitol and as we are testifying on behalf, it's great to be able to say that we represent all of these districts and that we are speaking to you and that we have your voice, because that's what's really important and helps us to be resilient and powerful, I would say, within the Capitol building and within the committees. We did make some changes in lobbying. So if you had any interest or any concerns in the past about lobbying and what we were doing advocacy-wise, we have made those changes with Jason coming on board. We have also talked amongst ourselves, along with a couple of our officers, about maybe we need to revisit a contract lobbyist. It's just new, it's something we're talking about, but that is something that we think may help us, especially in representing a district like yours, ensuring that you guys are heard. It's going to take all year to try to represent every school district, including you, to make sure that the next legislative session is as positive as possible. And just know that ISBA is the only organization in the building representing school boards. So that's what we do. Jason and I are committed that if you renew your membership, we want to have frequent conversations with you, to where when we get bills forward, we already speak with your legal counsel. Every single bill we receive, we run through legal counsel to make sure that is shared, and what are we not thinking of, and what are the concerns, and what is the application of a bill in a rural district. And so we share the same legal counsel, so we are doing all of that right now. But we would love, Jason and I have committed that we will speak with Superintendent Bubb as often as you want, with Chair Frazier, with any of you, that if you want to have that sounding board and you want to provide the feedback on every bill, we'll call you. Like, we are ready to do that. My degree is in business, so I believe in return on investment, and I was thinking of Trustee Benetti with that when I thought of that comment. I know that membership dues is a lot. I recognize that. And so all of the things I've talked about, and there's a lot of things I didn't talk about that I just quickly went over, is part of that return on investment for you is utilizing us. So letting us help you, asking us to help you, using all the resources we have, that's part of your return on investment. I think that was just all that I had, Madam Chair. I kind of scanned my notes, and I think I covered it all. I am happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Any comments or questions? Trustee Benetti.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And I want to touch upon that, the sort of second to last and the penultimate thing that you said, which is I think is what I'm mostly concerned about, which is every district does have to make whatever they think is in their best interest, right? And I appreciate all the things that you've laid out that helps us to, understand the scope of what we're talking about here. And I do have some other questions, but I just wanted to say that I really appreciate the work that you're doing. And I'm sure that it makes sense for a whole host. I know it makes sense because there's a lot of members that are utilize your services. But at the end of the day, at least my responsibility is to this district. That's my fiduciary responsibility. And so trying to understand that, and gosh, I so appreciate you coming here and being able to give this presentation and answer these questions, because that will help me at least clarify whether or not it is actually in our interest to have this relationship and to continue this relationship. So I really appreciate you coming here and helping make that decision in my mind, because without this information, I would just be making stuff up. So I appreciate that you have it. And I guess the first question, it'll be the first question, Madam Chair. I do have a number, so I'm assuming you'll want to intersperse. But the first question is that anytime you have an organization like this and you're functionally dealing with what effectively is a zero-sum game, right, in this particular type of instance, you're going to have interests that are going to conflict with one another, right, because you just can't please all the people all the time, quote, presidents. And so the question becomes, how do you do those conflicts come up? Do you have a standing rule that says, if we have multiple districts that have conflicts, we stay out of it? Or how do you manage those conflicts? Or is it simply, we voted, we reached a resolution, we're going to go move forward because that's how democracy works? So I'm just interested in when on the margins you have conflicts between districts where those interests diverge, how is that typically handled? And if you have examples, that's great. And if not, no big deal.
Madam Chair, Trustee Benetti, thank you. There have been instances where whole boards or even individual board members disagreed, or it would set up a winner or a loser between districts. And what we generally try to do is assess why does someone think they're a winner or a loser in any kind of situation or a disagreement there. Sometimes it's misinformation on their part, sometimes it's misinformation on our part. So first we try to do that. Then generally we take it to the Government Affairs Committee, because again, the staff shouldn't be making the decision of how we navigate legislation, but it really would go to the Government Affairs Committee to weigh, is this something worth getting in the middle of if we're then going to have winners and losers? So they usually assess it, and it's usually a long conversation to try to decide that. One example was House Bill 521. It was, of course, a huge win for West Ada. Some of our other districts felt like that they were receiving a much less percentage of funding comparatively, and they would say they were losers. But generally, the whole of the Government Affairs Committee felt like, no, this is good for everyone in some way. So while some may not feel like it's fair, it is good for everyone, just everyone may not get there. And so we ultimately supported House Bill 521 because of that. So it's each individual example kind of is analyzed. There have been times that we've taken a neutral position where it would set up two districts or a district and a charter school really competing or at odds, or it was going to really make some people upset. So that's why we just look at each one on a case-by-case scenario to see, is their information correct, and then is it really creating winners or losers? And then sometimes it's what is the majority, sometimes it's staying neutral, and then really encouraging then school board members and district leadership, you go testify. We'll be there with you, but go testify and give the examples from your own district.
I like that approach. I think that's great. So when it comes to that situation, like the instance that you provided, of course, that 521 percentage wasn't out of whack percentage-wise. It was apportioned by the funding formula. So did you use that opportunity to go talk to some of those other districts and clarify that, hey, this information is incorrect, it's actually perfectly proportioned according to the existing formula, and that helped inform the decision?
Madam Chair, Trustee Benetti, yes. So part of what we do is educating. So going and finding the numbers, showing them the analysis of it all, and so informing members of that. So we did do that to try to share that. Sometimes you still can't get the opinions changed, but we did do that.
Opinions aren't changed, then what happens? What do you typically do?
Madam Chair, Trustee Benetti, the Government Affairs Committee directed us to continue moving forward to support, like in that situation, that bill.
I understand, but in that case, it was accurate. So I'm asking for situations where it's inaccurate, where you do have a conflict, and it's not because somebody's misinformed, it's just that there's a conflict. So how does it get resolved? Is it just majority vote?
Madam Chair, Trustee Benetti, I can't think of anyone that in particular that was so extreme that we just had to move forward with it. Occasionally there may be a neutral, like I said, where we may testify, we may provide information, but when we get up to testify, we're not testifying in support of or against the bill. We provide feedback from members who've provided us with that information. So another example would be the ISBA voting structure that was changed a few years ago to make it more fair for West Ada in particular. Our voting structure previously leaned more to smaller schools and medium-sized schools that gave more votes to them, but we felt like that wasn't fair compared to our dues are based on enrollment. So that was another instance. However, when it went to the membership in November, it was a far majority voted in support of changing that vote structure to support the large districts paying majority of the votes. So there's times like that even outside of the legislative session where even in our own business session that we had to navigate that.
Other questions? Trustee McCullough?
Thank you for coming here today. I can sense the passion that you have for what you do, and I really appreciate that. I know that what you do is a service to a lot of school districts. So as a new trustee, I did attend ISBA conference, and I did attend the COSFA this year. I will say from my personal experience, I felt like I got a little bit better training for my job with my onboarding here through my district than I did when I went to the ISBA conference. And I did get quite a bit of insight at COSBA as well. So moving forward, if we were to stay with the ISBA, what would you do to provide more valuable training and classes that would pertain to the size and the specific needs of our school district?
Madam Chair, Trustee McCullough, I've actually had this conversation a few times with the chairwoman. It's something that we've both talked about and even brainstormed over lunch a few times trying to think of what we could do. One thing that I've thought of is reaching out to some of my other state association friends who have districts who are larger like yours and larger than this to see what do they do, and perhaps maybe we could get guest speakers to come in who are specialized in larger size districts. I think that I have close friends, other executive directors in other states who would be willing to do that to help us out to be able to provide a custom approach for you. Some of them are former school board members and now they're leading their state association. So if it was the right fit, if they had the right type of trainer or the right school board member who was willing to do that. When we go to COSBA, we make friends everywhere we go. And so just meeting all of those people and being able to find someone that may be willing to come in, that's something that we could do. Our staff, we're not from large districts like this. I mean, we live here, but I have never been a school board member in West Ada, so it's not the same experience, right? So we've talked about doing that too, where we could bring other people in to try to provide that kind of learning opportunity for a large district like this.
Just a follow-up question to that. Again, if we did not continue with ISBA, would we still be able to be a member of COSBA? Do you know?
Madam Chair, Trustee McCullough, so the membership of COSBA is only the State School Board Association. So their only members are school board associations.
Other questions? Vice Chair Zuna?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Swanson, it's great to see you again.
You too.
It's been a while. Does anybody know off the top of your head what our membership fee is annually?
If you look at your packet where your policies are, your last page should be.
so $35,000. You know, I probably share some of the same concerns. West Ada has different needs, just given our size. We have legal counsel in-house. You know, we have to get our resources from other places just due to our size. Our policies don't necessarily fit what you write for other districts. I mean, all of those kinds of things. And so my question really is, and my responsibility is to the students in this district and the staff in this district, but I do care about students throughout Idaho. I want to know, I guess, if we were to not renew this contract, what is the impact to other districts in Idaho? And then maybe a question for Dr. Bob, if there is an impact there, what are we going to do to help mitigate that?
Madam Chair, Trustee Ozuna, thank you. So the ISBA dues structure is based on enrollment, so the dues would normally be $45,000. But I received authorization to lower that, so that's why that amount is lower that you see there. That's the equivalent to the next highest district. So the impact will be great. Our budget is about just under $2 million. So you can take the percentage of that. West Ada obviously contributes a lot towards our membership dues. And then beyond that, you also send various people to our events and participate in different things that we offer. So yeah, that would, if you were to leave, it would be impactful to other size districts and charter schools across the state. But also then you and all of your expertise not attending those things wouldn't be sharing with, you know, brand new school board members in other districts. As well as all of the workshops that we have coming forward too. So that would be something that you'd be missing out on too. But I think the impact would be tough. I mean, we would get through it obviously, but it would be tough. So yeah.
Dr. Rowe?
Yeah, Madam Chair, trustees, I mean, from a superintendent's perspective, I work with most of the superintendents around the state, if not in our given area. And so we have really good relationships, and this isn't to sit on one side or the other, but we have really good relationships with every single one of those individuals. I think one of the concerns that I would consider as we're looking through this is really around representation on, like, we talked about the Government Affairs Committee. That has nobody from West Ada on it. So a lot of these decisions get made. I was testifying this year, and the Government Affairs person got up and testified to a bill that West Ada would have never supported. And so what is our voice on that, and what does that look like? I think that's where it becomes a little bit muddy. But as far as relationships with other districts and, you know, obviously we have two superintendents in the local area here that are both coming from West Ada, and Scott Montoya going over to Caldwell, and Marcus going over here to CUNA. I have really strong relationships. We also have other associations. We have IASA, which is the Superintendent's Association. That allows us to meet on a regular basis. We also meet within our own conference, which is the SIC conference, to be able to work through some of those things as well.
Can I do one follow-up there? And this is for you, Dr. Bob, but do you testify for legislation as well?
Madam Chair, trustees, yes, I testify often at legislation that we care deeply about. House Bill 292, a great example of that, making sure that goes through. It benefits us as a district. But I also think that there's some advantages. One of the nice things, if you look back at House Bill 292, it actually went through at the same time that some funding went through to address rural schools. We don't ever, as a district, want to live in an area in which we are hurting schools for our own benefit, but being able to develop strong relationships with the legislature so they know who we are, so they have some idea what our needs are, but also what are the needs of public education in the state of Idaho, I think is an important part of my role and important part of many of these people up here on the executive team testify.
Thank you both. Other questions? Trustee Benetti?
So I'd like to build off of that question about representation. And here, Jason, it's your first day. Sorry, but I'm going to have to put you on the spot because, you know, lobby, you mentioned about having some, he doesn't have to come up. This is up to you, Ms. Swanson, if you want to. But, you know, lobbying is all about personal relationships, about background, about experience. You know, a lot of people have a very dim view of that profession. I don't, but what I do know is that it is absolutely a profession, and it requires a detailed amount of experience and talent. And, you know, you had mentioned that maybe you're going to get a contract lobbyist moving forward. So maybe that will happen, maybe it won't, but the concern that I have is what is the background and experience that you're bringing to the table to be able to accomplish what is at least half of the objective of the School Board Association. And feel free to say, I just started today, because I know you just started today and you're in the hot seat, but I gotta ask.
Chair Frazier, Trustee Benetti. So I come from almost 20 years in the fire service, and I spent a lot of time as a firefighter, lobbying on behalf of firefighter issues, being down at the Capitol doing that. I've been 10 years with ISBA's association. I've served on I don't know how many committees, representing trustees in that role. So I've built and developed relationships in my prior profession. I plan to build on those. Interesting, a lot of the relationships I have from the fire side, some of those aren't pro-education people, but I have a great relationship with them already. So I plan on utilizing that to the best of my ability, because I'm friends with them on another level. So yes, this is new to me. It's a new job. It's a new career starting today, but not new to me in the sense that I've been doing this with the School Boards Association for over a decade, 18 and a half years, full-time fire service, and a lot of those years doing that. And I ran for legislature 4 years ago. So being a part of what this process is and what it looks like, also not new to me when I ran in District 23. So, yeah.
Other questions? Vice Chair Zuna.
Does anybody know when the last time we drafted a resolution was? Have we?
Dr. Bo?
Madam Chair, trustees, I think we jumped on a resolution with a couple districts a few years ago, and that was around facilities funding. That was shortly after 521, or shortly before 521 was passed. That's to the best of my recollection. There might be some others.
Okay. I have one other question. Do we participate in the insurance pool today?
Madam Chair, trustees, we have in the past participated in the insurance pool. The plan is to not participate in that next year. It gives us more flexibility. We are already a pretty large conglomerate that's really focused on smaller districts where they can all kind of pull their resources together. We're able to do that, and we are able to also provide some self-insurance abilities. We went over that with the Finance Committee earlier this year.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Trustee Benetti.
I don't want to go, yeah. So this one's going to be another difficult question, so I'm just prefacing it. But earlier this year, your president-elect made some comments in a public forum that were, that the Attorney General determined were in violation of Code 3374606, 74606. And whether or not you agree with that assessment, that's not where I want to go down. But what I do want to say is that there at least were some people that took umbrage with that in terms of, taking particular issue with legislatures, the legislature with which we have to work, and certainly caused at least I'll say some controversy that could produce some headwinds for half of your main task, which is influence, right? So did you see that as a problem? And, and if so, what are we doing to sort of help make sure that your influence maintains at the highest level? Because, people can say things all the time. That's true. It can happen. But what are the steps that might be taken to help improve that influence, or at least potentially forestall something like that from happening again, which makes your job a little bit harder?
Madam Chair, Trustee Benetti, I will tell you that that board member was not representing ISBA when that happened. I did not know that was going to be happening, nor the comments that were going to be said. To follow up with that, anytime the Attorney General, the Idaho legislature, anyone passes any kind of rule or recommendation or opinion, we're going to recommend school board members and school districts follow that to the T. So as that went on, it was how can this be a learning experience of what is right or wrong? And in this case, we were taking the Attorney General's, I don't think he issued an opinion on it, but it was a It's called an assessment. It was called something else, I believe, but we'll call it an assessment. And so how can we learn from that? So after that, it was probably about 2 weeks later, I had another school board member reach out to me and say, I want to go do something similar. What am I allowed to do and not do? And it was, let's just steer away from doing any of that. So go back to the Attorney General, what we read about what they issued, and let's try to follow what he is saying that we should be doing as elected officials. And that goes for anything that happens within, when laws are issued, we hold everything to the closest to the letter of the law, and that's what we advise boards. And I know that sometimes that some boards want to go one way or another way on something, and we always try to bring them back to what does the word of the law say? How do we interpret that? We consult with legal counsel. How is this interpreted? To ensure that we're following exactly to how it was written, or in this case, the opinion or the assessment written by the Attorney General. As I looked at hiring the next director of advocacy, one thing that was really important to me was a very critical eye that are we following do our policies, our guidelines, our opinions, our help, does it follow the letter of the law exactly? Are we swaying any direction? Because we need to bring it back to exactly what the law says. And when I interviewed, we had lots of applicants for the position. When I interviewed it was kind of a semi-finalist interview, I asked some very pointed questions about, we need someone who will look at our policies, who will look at all of this, and we are following the exact law. We aren't deviating from anything because of our personal views or because of what we think it should say. It is exactly that. Trying to just uphold exactly what our legislature is doing, and also federal laws too, and administrative rule, all of that.
Other questions? Trustee Benetti?
So following up on that particular piece when it comes to policies, I sat on the policy committee with Trustee Ozuna, and we spent a lot of time really thinking through a lot of those aspects. I have noticed that we've been making some updates, and they're very, again, to our needs, to what we believe we need as a district. But I was finding that a lot of, at least the historical policies, have positions that were, I'll just say, took aggressive positions, potentially aggressive social positions. I did some searching from some of the other perspectives with some of the other school boards, and it's difficult because we don't subscribe to your policy manual service, at least not currently. I think we must have in the past because we had access to that information. And some of the policies have been sort of cut and pasted in whole cloth from that policy manual on other districts, which I was able to sort of figure out by cross-referencing them against districts. Some of them do appear like potentially they haven't made updates from some of those earlier things. Obviously the main things that you provide from your presentation are influence and services, right? Which is the frame that I'm trying to use. But just looking at that sort of policy perspective, it's arguably the most important, most impactful thing that you do. Maybe not most important, but certainly most impactful, because those policies are how those districts are run, right? Particularly when they don't have the sort of scope and size that we're able to do in the time frame to be able to devote to it. So how are those policies made? I mean, are you reading them yourself personally to go through all of them? There's quite a few. Or is there a committee that's put together? Has it been overhauled? We're doing our own overhaul. It's going to be a good 3.5 to 5 years before we're done. So I'm just intrigued, and you have a lot more model policies than we do. So I'm just, how confident are you that those policies are holding to what you effectively just said with that regard? Being neutral, and historically they haven't been. So, yeah.
Madam Chair, Trustee Benetti, I have been taking a very conscious effort in the last couple of years as executive director to try and fix that. So ensuring that, as I just said, whatever the law is, that is exactly what the model policy says. The process to get to that point is, once the legislative session is done, we see all of the bills that pass. We then assess what bills require policy additions, policy changes, or policy deletions. And then our team, one of them that leads it, she has a master's in public policy. So she's been doing this for 11 or 12 years now. And she goes through, and she, along with our government affairs director, will go through and make amendments or write new policy or whatever needs to happen to each of those policies to have them then comply with the law. And then once we get it all drafted, we run it by legal counsel, who we share the same legal counsel to make sure from comparing the law, comparing our policy, does it match, and is there any deviation socially, any other topics, personal opinions, whatever else it could be. So we've been really trying to make sure that there's none of that happening. Now, what could happen, so then we issue that model. Once the legal counsel approves that, we make any changes that they have, we then issue it to members. They're model policies because we truly, again, believe every community and every district in the state looks different. So some parents are not going to want certain wording in a policy where other parents are going to demand it, or staff members or whomever, board members. So we always say it's a model, build from this. From there, it's up to school boards to decide what are we willing to take out and what are we willing to put in without impacting the law. And we always say then you should run, if you're going to touch it and you're going to make the changes, go run it by legal counsel again to make sure you didn't just change what the law said. But that was, again, something that Jason and I have had a lot of conversations about, is ensuring that we are double checking all of that and carefully reviewing every aspect. Every policy update that we send out, I ask a lot of questions about, or I go compare it to the law to see, do I believe from the lens I'm looking at it, does this follow the law, or is it going off into a different direction?
Other questions? Trustee Brown?
Does COSBA lobby in front of Congress?
Madam Chair, Trustee Brown. So COSBA does have a federal representation there. They contract with the Bose Group, and so I receive weekly information from the Bose Group via COSBA of all of the testifying they're doing, the advocacy that they're doing. They literally on the Hill every single day working with congressmen to work on public education on behalf of school districts across the country, and including Idaho. And so I've went there before, met with our congressmen, trying to work on various topics. And then COSBA also is there. So there's frequently that you'll see their executive director there also meeting with congressmen. Oftentimes she'll reach out and say, is there anything that anyone you want me to meet with, since, Idaho is so far away? Is there anyone you want me to meet with? Is there anything, who's on each of the committees? What do we need to be doing for education across the country?
Other questions? Trustee Benetti?
I'm sorry, it's just a weighty decision, so I want to make sure that I'm fully informed. So you had mentioned, we've got here the annual fees and mentioned some of the things that are included with that. I'm going to go through a number of different items that you've listed in your services, right? That's straight off your presentation. So ideally, because there's a lot of them here, about a dozen. If you could just give me the number, that would be great, or range, that would be good. And I'll give you time if you need to look them up. But so in addition to the annual $35,000, what are additional fees for board development workshops?
So it would be, Madam Chair, Trustee Benetti, it would be net zero if you use your reimbursable dollars. So for ISBA to come in and do a workshop.
I'm sorry, I don't want to put that in my head. Can you just tell me what you charge, and then I'll figure out reimbursement later?
For like a 1.5 hour workshop, it would be $1,500.
Super. Publications and essential tools?
Those are complimentary.
Complimentary, good. Superintendent search?
That is $9,750.
Okay, flat, no matter what?
Flat, no matter what.
Does that include nationwide search, or is it just?
It is a nationwide search.
Okay.
Yep, and I think you would find that a lot of the national companies charge $20,000 or $30,000.
Yeah, that actually does seem like a good rate. Labor relations?
That is complimentary.
Complimentary. ISBA, wait a minute, complimentary, like no matter how long they take?
What was that?
Labor relations, no matter how long? Okay.
That means during negotiations, when you have questions, if you have lots and lots of negotiation questions, you can call us and we will help answer those. If we don't know the answer, we will ask an attorney to help us with that answer.
Got it, okay.
And we incur that cost.
All right, Dr. Bub already mentioned ISBA insurance. Policy services?
For the policy update service, it's $850 a year, or there's a policy plus, which is via Assembly, which is $1,100.
Okay, and
a year.
Assembly itself?
That is through your district. Your district
Okay.
pays for that. ISBA hosts Assembly for you.
Oh, it hosts it for us, okay, great. Board clerk services, you mentioned that, we take advantage of
Complimentary.
those? Complimentary, okay, great.
And I would encourage you to talk to your clerk too to see if she's enjoying those services or not.
Excellent, thank you. I may put her on the spot here, we'll see. Policy update webinars?
Those are complimentary.
Vice chair, chair webinars?
Complimentary.
Board clerk, we already mentioned that.
Complimentary.
Annual convention?
That's, the last year was $600 per attendee,
Uh-huh.
and then some of that can be reimbursed as well.
Okay, Day on the Hill?
$200, and some of that can be reimbursed.
Great. Leadership Institute?
$150, and that is fully reimbursable.
Excellent. Region meetings?
Those are complimentary.
And legislative rep meetings?
Those are complimentary.
Yeah, those are all great numbers.
That's why you pay your membership.
Yeah,
dues.
that's good to see. Well, then it just leads to one other question, because you had mentioned this is discounted. Why?
It was just some conversations, just trying to help this decision. I understand, I'm a business person. I'm running a business right now. I understand that, that is a lot of money. And it's not that much money maybe for your district, but I recognize that is a lot of money. And there's a lot of things that you could do with that, so.
Is anybody else getting a discount?
No.
Okay.
Just trying to help this decision and trying to, I think, just extend an olive branch. I recognize maybe some of the board hasn't utilized this as much as I would like them to, so I'm hoping that maybe we can get you to stay another year, and then maybe that we can try to fix that to where you do see the ROI and that you do see, that we are using all of these services or most of them, and next year we're not having the same conversation. We're saying, wow, that was a great year of using all of these things.
Got it. So this is a one-time discount, and then next year we would expect that to return to its normal rate.
We can talk.
Okay, great. All right, so maybe. Okay, got it. Madam Chair, I'm sorry about that. Those are all my questions.
Any other questions? Vice Chair Zuna?
I struggle a little bit when I think through this, because it seems like you need our student counts, right? You need the fact that we're the biggest district here, and that helps everybody in the voice in making decisions. And we need to free up budget dollars. And I mean, that's really a struggle, because the services that you provide, we have other avenues for those services. And I'm not quite sure exactly how to balance that. I think that's what makes this conversation really hard.
And I hope that over the next year that we can try and change that maybe.
Any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Ms. Swanson, I appreciate it. I'm open to a motion. Trustee Benetti.
I move that we exit the Idaho School Boards Association and not renew for 2026-27.
Is there a second? Trustee McCullough.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Trustee Benetti.
So I appreciate everything that you've said here, and I really appreciate the fact that you've come and tried your best foot forward to articulate the value that you provided. And I have absolutely no doubt that for the majority of districts in this state, you provide a tremendous value. But as I go through the two benchmarks that I'm using as my own stools, the own two pillars on here, one of them is the influence. And I think that while there might be some promise in the future, I think that at least in my own personal conversations that I've had, that actually is not necessarily a net positive overall, right? And it doesn't make anyone right, doesn't make anyone wrong. It just means that it really it lowers that in terms of the overarching value. The second thing is when it comes to services. And as I go through the list of services, I find that we just either don't utilize, or effectively provide many of the services that would otherwise happen, right? Policy is something that I'm very in tune to, and I'll just be very direct. I'm finding that I'm having to spend a lot of time on doing things rather than building off of them. And I understand that they're models. I understand they're meant to be a good benchmark for people that are coming from different perspectives. I can only speak from my perspective and what works for me and what works for the fiduciary responsibility that I hold. I think that also goes for certain of the tools, like for instance, you mentioned the hosting of Assembly. It's just not something that has any marginal value to us. In fact, we found it too constricting and had to build our own tool to sort of move our way around that. I would be interested, just to make sure that I'm fully informed on the board clerk position, if she's comfortable. I don't want to sandbag anybody ever, but to hear that perspective, good, bad, or indifferent would be fine. I think that what are the good things? I think the superintendent search is definitely in the affordability range. I think that, you know, I would be slightly concerned about the national search aspects of that because it is substantially below sort of market rates, but perhaps that's why it's being offset by the overarching measurement. I remember my only time that I went to an ISBA conference, and I felt that it was reasonably well put together, but I just noticed that 3/4 of the people who were giving presentations were our members, right? I could just go ask Jonathan Gillen or Amy White or any of the people that were presenting. And so there was a certain aspect of, okay, it's great, I love that we're getting additional visibility, but why is this useful for me personally? And unfortunately, the answer to that is that it wasn't since then. And so I just have not found it of particular value. So I don't want to belabor this because I don't want to, this is not meant to be it's not meant to be anything other than what it is, which is I'm concerned about where the value is for us as a district. And personally, I don't see it. And with respect, and Trustee Ozuna knows this is my perspective, but she knows that I care about West data. That's my focus. And the other things that happen, I don't necessarily want them to happen, and I don't share any lack of compassion, but it's just not my concern. It's not my fiduciary responsibility. And so when I look at the overarching dual aspects of influence and services, I don't see the value. So that's why I made this motion, and it's why I'll be voting to exit the Idaho School Board Association.
Other comments or discussion? Trustee McCullough?
I just want to add to that due to our budget constraints, I think it's just very important that we pay attention to every single dollar that we spend. And just in my experience, in my short time as a trustee, I just haven't felt the value of it, of a membership at this time. But when I say that, that doesn't mean forever. It just means today, I'm looking at every dollar that we spend for West Data, and for me, the value just doesn't justify the cost, although I do really appreciate you giving us a discount, and maybe, you know, next time we meet, that discount will still be there. But as of for today, it's not for me today.
Other discussion? Seeing none, we'll move forward. We have a motion and ready for a vote. All those in,
Point of order.
yes, sir?
If the board clerk would comment or not, the board clerk, if the board clerk would like to comment or not.
Clerk Engel, is that something you'd like to comment to? Are you comfortable?
Sure.
Okay.
I believe the question was, what is my experience with ISBA? About 3 years ago, I arrived here in my current position, and I'm just going to be transparent. ISBA was a major lifeline and support for me, to the point that, as Misty mentioned, move forward, you know, a few years to today, I am now feeding back into the system and presenting and training my fellow clerks and providing them the support that I so desperately needed when I arrived, not knowing what I was doing at all. But I have to be transparent and say, fiscally, I don't know that $25,000 annually is an appropriate price tag for clerk training. So I valued everything I've received from ISBA, but I don't know that that's a factor in you guys' decision.
Thank you so much. David, any further, or Trustee Benetti, any further discussion? Pardon me? Vice Chair Zun?
Thank you. Thanks for that, Sarah. I'm going to support the motion that was made, but I would ask for consideration for us to continue to provide our resources, because I think that's good for the state.
Any other discussion? All right, we'll move forward with a vote. All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Hold on.
Oh, yes, sir? Oh, pardon me. Nay. There's one nay. So 4 ayes and 1 nay. All right, motion carries. That takes us to good of the order. There was no one that signed up for that, so just as a reminder, good of the order is something that, just like public comment, is a 2-minute maximum and can be spoken on, nothing personal, no individuals, always policy procedure. Are there any future agenda items? Seeing none, I'm open to a motion to adjourn. Trustee Benetti?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Trustee McCullough?
I'll second.
All those, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We will adjourn at 7:43 PM.